As you well know, of the county's recruitment and selection process for the pivotal post for our next county administrator. Our intent tonight is to give you the opportunity to get to know these individuals before a selection is made. All four candidates will be answering questions submitted by you, the public. Information about the candidates can be found on pbc.gov. Now, I'm going to start by explaining some of the procedures for the forum, which each candidate received ahead of time. Please, if you're in the audience behind me, refrain from applause, cheering, or calling out, with the exception that at the end of all the questions, you may applaud for all the candidates if you wish. There are cameras around the room here at the Palm Beach County Convention Center, and the forum's being broadcast live, hopefully many of you joining us that way on Channel 20, and available on pbc.gov. So if you're at home, cheer all you want, jump up and down. But here, we'll keep it quiet until the end. And finally, we ask, of course, everybody in our audience here to listen intently, as we know you will, and at home and online, pay full attention to all the candidates. They deserve our respect and a full and fair hearing of what they have to say. And with that, I am very happy to introduce the finalists for the Palm Beach County Administrator Recruitment, who will come out in alphabetical order by last name. Joseph Abruzzo, Isami Ajala, Keith Clinkscales, and Patrick Rudder. And we will allow just one time here to break the rule, a round of applause for all of them together. Now we're going to begin with the candidates providing an opening statement to introduce themselves to you. You will each have up to 5 minutes for your opening statement. There's a time clock in front of you that will indicate when your time is up. And just as a reference, when you're down to a minute, the yellow light will go on. When you're down to 30 seconds, the yellow light will start blinking. When it turns red, if you ignore it, I'll very politely inform you that time is up. Now, the order of opening statements is based on straws that were drawn before the candidates walked on stage. And with that in mind, we will begin with you, Patrick Rudder.
Thank you all and good evening. Those of you watching, thank you for participating virtually. Glad you could be here to be part of this. So my name is Pat Rudder. I am currently Deputy County Administrator of Palm Beach County. I've worked for the county for 22 and a half years in a variety of positions, but I'm going to take a second and take you back to a little bit more about me. I'm a native of West Palm Beach, born and raised, born at St. Mary's Hospital, Northmore Elementary, Roosevelt Middle School, and North Shore High School. So went off a undergraduate degree from Florida Atlantic, my master's degree from the University of Florida. Came back after school. My first job was in City of Pembroke Pines, was a planner there for 3 years, and then worked at an engineering firm for another 5 years, where the City of Weston, when they incorporated and began their work, I was their first growth management director. Then came to Palm Beach County. So positions I've held at Palm Beach County in my time here. I was the Deputy Planning Division Director. I then became the department head of the Planning, Zoning, and Building Department. Came downtown, if you will, and I was an assistant county administrator for about 5 years, and then I've been the deputy county administrator for a year and a half. So I'd like to think that I've seen a little bit of everything through the course of my time in the county and crossed paths with many, many, many of the issues and challenges that we continue to face and ones that we have dealt with in the past. So talk a little bit about achievements and things that I have worked on, some of my more prominent ones, I guess you'd say, through the course of time. Developed our workforce housing program. So that's a program where developments have to set aside a certain number of units for our targeted income categories. And that's created about 2,000 units since it began over the course of about 18 years now. Another thing, our countywide transportation master plan. So begun work on that under our board's direction, which will begin to look at, with all of our municipalities, the transportation challenges we're facing in the world. We're going to have about a year-long exercise that we'll be engaging in to assess that. Emergency management duties. Yeah, go back to worked so many of our hurricanes through the course of time, and then in our COVID era, where we spun up our operations in such different ways. I built and operated all of the county-run testing facilities and vaccination sites through time. And another thing I would point out would be dealing with our budget and working on our budget. Back to my time as a department head, planning, zoning, and building, we had about a $70 million budget at the time, about 300 employees working up to as an assistant administrator overseeing a number of departments to deputy for those past couple budget cycles now, and working very closely with our Office of Finance Management and Budget and our budget crew on developing the budgets that we present to the board every year. Development issues have been pretty much central to my life. You know, I come from a planning and zoning background, and I've pretty much seen most of them that have come before us, whether it's the Ag Reserve, whether it's some of our other major ones that have come through the course of time, or understanding the development trends that we're facing. I've been fortunate to work with great people and great staff we have at the county and addressing a number of concerns. A lot of things you don't learn in school, a lot of things they don't teach you. And I've had great exposure to that, so I feel like I've got a good breadth of knowledge addressing those points. So taking it forward then, looking forward to what I would want to do, chosen as the administrator, and we had the opportunity, all four of us did today, to meet individually with all 7 commissioners during the day. And first thing would be as we talk about the budget, and one of the things for me is addressing it earlier as much as possible, getting into it earlier in the year so we can get the guidance from the board in their direction, as well as understanding how we can inform our departments so we can have a more efficient process along the way. Use of technology, always important. So much of it for me, though, is right size, right place. We have a lot of enhanced utilization that's out there now, and there's a lot more that we can be doing. Municipal interaction, our master plan is indicative of that. Need to continue to grow those relationships. Water master plan, make best use of the great investments the federal government and the state government have made, bringing it down to what we do. Housing goes without saying that will always be an issue, whether it's affordable at workforce. Last but not least, working to serve our employees and make this the best place to work.
Sir, we thank you very much. We will now turn to Joseph Abruzzo. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. William, and a special thanks to the Palm Beach County Commissioners for arranging this, Human Resource Department for working so hard with us to bring this to the residents of Palm Beach County, and of course all those in the audience for being here. My name is Joseph Abruzzo, and a little bit about me. I have lived my entire adult life here in Palm Beach County. I attended Lynn University, where I started my public service as student body president, joined the United States Coast Guard right after graduation, eventually elected in my 20s to the legislature, first to the Florida House, then to the Florida Senate. But what's interesting about my time in the legislature is leadership roles. I was chosen by the leadership of my respective party in both the House and the Senate to serve as the whip, which meant being an integral part of the legislative process, negotiating with the majority party, working with our members in the caucus to build a stronger Florida, and we did just that, as well as being the only freshman, eventually senator, when I was elected to the a Senate spot, to chair a committee, which was the auditing committee, which transitioned eventually into where I serve you all today as your clerk and comptroller. And what does that mean? I'm currently the clerk to the Board of the County Commissioners, the clerk to the 15th Judicial Circuit, the CFO of the county, the treasurer of the county, the recorder of the county, the auditor of the county, and we help manage and operate the Federal Passport Office. In my role as your Chief Financial Officer and Treasurer, one of my main duties is investing your tax dollars, protecting it, number one, and investing it to earn extra money to turn over to our county government so they have more funds to work with. And I will tell you, when I took office in this role in 2021, we were earning annually $27 million on average of investment income, We broke that record in 2023 fiscal year, returning $173 million to the county. And just this past year, for 2024, a record-breaking $230 million to our county government. One incredible thing, and I give full credit to the Board of County Commissioners, we are in some of the best financial shape of any large county or municipality, not only in the state of Florida, but across the United States. Our debt is extremely low. We maintain a AAA bond rating, which is really the crown jewel or backbone, if you will, of what we do financially. And if I'm fortunate enough to serve as your county administrator, that maintaining that bond rating and doing things accordingly is paramount for us to continue to do it in one of our main goals, or one of my main goals. I will tell you that a couple of challenges that I see on the horizon, and Mr. Rudder addressed a couple of them briefly. Number one is our technology advancement and AI, artificial intelligence. It's both going to be a challenge, but yet an incredible opportunity, the way that our workforce and our community transforms, not only over the past decade, but right now. Currently in our clerk's office, we have over 40% of our workflow on the court side being handled by AI. I see a lot of that transitioning into our county government, which I will hopefully lay out and talk about in a little bit. As the treasurer of the county, I cut the checks for what the county commission generally approves, our roads, our parks. One thing that I've seen, and I had the opportunity to discuss this with the commissioners earlier today, by the time the commission approves a project and the time the shovel actually goes in the dirt, whether it's 12, 24, 36 months, the costs are rising because of inflation. One of the next big challenges or monumental challenges for the county administrator is going to be managing that aspect of these projects. I could tell you as your county CFO, inflation likely isn't going away anytime soon. It's going to be like the stock market, gradual peaks and valleys, but it's going to continue to tick up over time. We have a national debt of $37 trillion. We have to watch that because, again, that goes right into the core and the heart of our local projects. It has been a true pleasure to serve you as an elected official, both countywide and in districts all across the state, working for the people of Florida and our county, and it would be a true honor and privilege if I get to serve you as your county administrator. Thank you.
Sir, we thank you for your time, and we now turn to Isami Ajala.
Thank you. Good evening. It is often said that we are a function of our values and life experiences. Let me share with you who I am. I am a mom of a teenager. I am a wife of almost 22 years. I am a daughter of a high school principal that made it very clear that in our home, aiming for anything but my best was unacceptable, that discipline, dedication, and integrity were not only expected, but required. And in my case, that means that I became a professional engineer, one that went to law school at night to become an attorney, the same attorney that pursued not one, but two doctoral degrees, one in environmental sciences that remains completed all but the dissertation because family came first and my priorities are clear, and a second one in public administration, which turned out to be a test of endurance that I conquer. 28 years of college education and resulting academic degrees, concurrent with almost 25 years of professional experience. I have a public infrastructure portfolio that is hard to match. And to be clear, that means that I have first-hand experience delivering libraries, museums, hospitals, water treatment plants, housing projects, and road improvement projects, just to name a few. It also means that I have performed public construction under the most challenging and pressing circumstances. I have led and been part of emergency response teams. I have prepared budgets. I have led community outreach meetings. I have been part of collective bargaining teams, and I have negotiated resolution of grievances. As an assistant county administrator for Palm Beach County and director of its Facilities Development and Operations Department, I have negotiated and managed some of the most complex contracts that the Board of County Commissioners has considered and which will have a lasting impact on generations to come. Simply put, my professional experience has depth and breadth. It is not theoretical, it is proven and tested. The county administrator position is not a political role. This county has 7 elected positions, 7 commissioners that sit as a board to establish policy. Any candidate to the administrator position that tells you that he or she has a vision for the county based on policy decisions is misleading you. The administrator does not establish policy. The administrator's sole responsibility is to implement the policy established by the Board of County Commissioners. Therefore, my vision for the county is to ensure that it thrives on the 4 core values that an administrator can control. Competence, because at the end, the county is a business. It requires efficiency and exceptional performance. Unwavering commitment, doing the right thing for the right reason without undue influence from any source. Because as community members, you should not need to be preoccupied with how your resources are being managed. Creative leadership, because the challenge remains to find the unconventional solutions while accepting a degree of risk and ensuring partnerships, providing for community involvement. And finally, communication, because public administration requires transparency, relationship building, and participation by all stakeholders. I will leave you with my answer to a question that was not asked of the candidates, but that I believe should have been. Why apply for this position? For some, it might be a matter of titles, of political influence, of personal ego, of an attractive salary. For me, it was, and it remains, a matter of principle. A deep sense of responsibility that comes from the knowledge that our county deserves respect, that our constituents deserve an administrator with a steady hand, who is willing to put in the effort and the long hours that the position requires, and who has the experience to keep this boat afloat as commissioners change due to elections and term limits, and our policies evolve as a function of our societal values. Thank you.
Thank you, and we will now turn to Keith Clinkscales. Sir.
Good evening. Good evening. By now, our resumes have been scrutinized, and I know you know all about us. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on my resume, but I will say this. I'm an engineer. I have an executive MBA degree and a PhD in strategic leadership. But I'm asking the Board of County Commissioners not to hire a resume, but to hire attitude, innovation, passion, and an innovative spirit. You see, I have a strong connection between private industry and public. I started as an engineer, left Youngstown, Ohio, went to Boston on a Greyhound bus, determined to be an engineer at Boston University. I got my first job there. I met my wife there and spent 8 years as an engineer. Tapped on the shoulder to do management consulting. For over 15 years, I was an operational excellence consultant. I know what process improvement looks like. I know what technology enablement looks like. I know what treating people right and creating the right culture looks like. Operational excellence. I'm asking the county to think about operating the county like a Fortune 500 company. But operate like a Fortune 500 company, but think like a county. What does that mean? Process, efficiency, ease, streamlining, doing things once, eliminating waste, treating people right, valuing innovation. But think like a county, people, service, the residents, engagement, doing what we do for the people. We can do both. We can operate well and still provide the services we need. There's no need for people to look at the county as less than able of being innovative, fresh ideas, critical thinking, streamlining, implementing AI. We can do both. Bring me the data. I am the Director of Strategic Planning and Performance Management. I have a distinction that my colleagues here do not have. I work with every single department. I have the metrics and the scorecards of every single department. I know how they function, what they do well, and what they don't do well. I have sat in the budget development meeting for the last 7 years, right there with Virginia, and the assistant county administrators. Every single supplemental request for the budget comes to me. Why? Because I have to make sure it aligns with the strategy, the strategic priorities, and the metrics. Do you have the metrics? But here's the thing. I've never heard any discussion about how we do things differently. See, when we look at the $9 billion budget, $1 billion is public safety. We're not going to touch that. The sheriff, we have the president right here. We need public safety. The $250,000, so that's $1 billion for the public safety. The next big chunk is $250,000 for infrastructure. With a growing community where everyone's coming here, we need infrastructure. We have to have it. That said, Keith James said this. When he's been interviewed and asked why everyone's coming here, he said to Steve Ross, I want inclusive growth. That's what I want for the county. When people come to develop here in Palm Beach County, everyone should benefit from that growth. With that, I would like to be the next county administrator to change how we do business. Thank you.
Thank you all. And we now will move on to the question and answer portion of our forum. All of the questions that you will hear tonight have been submitted by members of the public, either online or those you see in attendance here. I'm going to randomly have the submitted questions selected. We will rotate the order the questions are answered, and each one of you will have up to 3 minutes to answer each question. Mr. Abruzzo, we will begin with you. Again, the randomly selected question. Sir, how will you ensure transparency and accountability in county government? 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, and that might be one of the most important questions asked tonight because it all starts with transparency and accountability. I am currently the protector of the public records and public trust. What we do at the Clerk and Comptroller's Office is just that, add confidence in our community that things are moving and working right within Palm Beach County. Also, hence, as I stated before, as the auditor, making sure that all our county contracts internally are above reproach. The most important thing as county administrator is to communicate and disclose to the public everything that we are doing. One thing that I will tell you, if I'm fortunate enough to be your county administrator, and I know many of you at home, especially watching this, that follow our county government, our website is antiquated. It is not where it should be, up to date. At our clerk's office, we put on our website how every county dollar is being spent. That is transparency, ladies and gentlemen. I will tell you, our county website, which is the main website that people go to for our local government, will incorporate just that. But also, it goes beyond just reporting statistics. You have to, as a leader, you have to instill the correct moral values in those you lead, and let those know that work in the county government that any, and I'm going to be just blunt and straight and direct, any funny business is not tolerated. At the clerk's office, we hold ourselves to high ethical standards. It goes back to our military training in the Coast Guard. Not that we run it as a military, but our motto is honor, respect, devotion to duty. Devotion to duty means full transparency, keeping the public open and along for the ride the entire way, so there's never any surprises and everything is always available to the public. Thank you, sir.
Sir, thank you. And for the benefit of our audience at home, online, and also here in the audience, I'll repeat the question, and it now goes to Isami Ajala. How will you ensure transparency and accountability in county government?
Thank you. So I think it's a twofold answer. And let me start by saying, so that everyone that is watching and listening knows this, I will argue that this county has some of the best, if not the best, workforce that there is. You have very capable staff. County business is complex business, right? And those of us that have performed this work know that. Therefore, the challenge remains, how do we take very complex matters and process them so that they are transparent and to the point and can be used for interpretation by the general population? So I think the answer is twofold. Number one, there are some areas in how we collect data, one of my colleagues was talking about, that certainly could handle improvement. And they could handle improvement so that we're able to gather that information, but not only that, to analyze it in a way that goes beyond what we currently have for performance management. And that gives you then accountability. Because what you can measure, you can control. And you can show then that resources are being used and put to work for the best interests of the county. It also gives you an opportunity to identify where your areas of growth might be and where you might be able to move resources to better align with community needs. Lastly, I think it's pressing and needed for every county organization and every component within this organization to make sure that we're carrying our work down to the community level. And that means that when projects get done, when you need to convey what you are doing, it needs to go down to the communities, it needs to be conveyed to those that are going to be affected the most. And I stated during my introduction that communication is key. It is key for all stakeholders, not only on the private sector, but on the community sector, on the non-for-profits, so that we can paint a better picture of what we do. But not only that, so that we can receive recommendations as to which areas require improvements. Thank you.
Thank you. How will you ensure transparency and accountability in county government? We now turn to Mr. Clinkscales.
Thank you, Mike. So last year, I was tasked with creating the Resident Opinion Survey, the very first survey countywide that we've done maybe ever. I was told it couldn't be done. We had almost 8,000 residents submit their survey results on how the company was doing, how do we communicate, how we're performing, do we meet the strategic priorities, how are we meeting their expectations. We have to be willing to engage the public and the residents. We have 1.5 million residents. We have 7,000 employees. We have 35 to 40 department heads. We have 150 division heads. We have 4 assistant county administrators. We have 7 commissioners, a deputy administrator. How do we create transparency up and down and across? We have to be willing to be vulnerable. We have to be willing to engage at all levels, horizontally and vertically, and ask the tough questions, how are we doing? In previous discussions, there's been some reluctance to that because people are scared as to what the residents will say. I use this montage. If you want to lose weight, you have to be willing to get on the scale. You have to be willing to take the good, bad, and the ugly from anyone, all the community. So it begins with engagement and to be willing to be vulnerable to hear what the residents are going to say. You might not like it, but it's only going to make us better. When they see that you listen and you act on what they said, whether good, bad, or indifferent, then they will begin to trust us and feel that we're transparent.
Patrick Rudder, how will you ensure transparency and accountability in county government?
So a little bit of background, accountability and transparency. My background in my youth is zoning. When you have a zoning application, you might have seen these in your neighborhood. You might get a letter if you're within 500 feet, 300 feet of the site that tells you that there's an action coming before the government. I cannot tell you how many times I've been to meetings where I can look on the list and see that, you know, Ms. Jones' name was on the list, and they might come to the microphone and say, well, I wasn't noticed, I didn't know, I didn't get a letter. Accountability. I can show you on the list where your name is Ms. Jones and share that information. That doesn't make the person feel better, it doesn't help them, and it leads to the second part of it. How are people consuming information now? And that's the big thing. Back in the day, sending letters was the only way that we knew how to do it. We post on Facebook, we post Instagram, we post across the board in a variety of ways. How are people consuming the information? What is the right kind of information? What do people want to know? How do we get that out to them? Right person, right place, that right size. We work in the public sector, we work in government, so we're not afraid. Everything we do is public record. Our salaries, every bit of work, our emails, it's all out there, so there's nothing to hide. It goes back to, though, how does the resident get the answer? What do they even know to ask? Back to, how are they consuming information? What are they looking for? When, I think a good example of being very transparent is our infrastructure sales tax, which was a penny sales tax the voters voted on a number of years ago, and that's about to roll off the books. But we've got dedicated areas for every project that we've performed, how much is spent, what the project is, when it was started, when it was done, things of that sort. Anybody has any questions, they can find those answers there. The challenge is we are a big government. We are 7,000 people. We are 2,000 square miles in Palm Beach County. Unincorporated government alone, we're about 43% of the population. How do we find that right size, fit it in? We can put a lot of information out there. It has unfortunately, that challenge of becoming white noise. How do we sift through that and provide it and present it to people that they can find consumable, that they're going to use, and is what they want to hear? I think that so much of that's the accountability, just answering the question they're looking for and understanding it and bringing that piece home.
Sir, thank you, and we'll tee up the next question for you, again, as we've rotated the questions, and another question pulled at random. We will begin with you, Patrick Rudder. How do you plan to strengthen relationships with municipalities, advisory boards, and neighborhood organizations? You have up to 3 minutes, sir.
So I'll do the tough one first on the municipality side. 39 cities in Palm Beach County. Now, follow the geographic makeup. They're about 57% or so of our population, but they're about 20% of our land area. So when you think about the functions that we perform in Palm Beach County that are specific to us, we are the largest city, probably 4 or 5-fold than whatever would be the largest municipality that we have. Strengthening our relationships. We're right now in the middle of a countywide transportation master plan. We're about to begin the efforts. And that has been about a year bringing it to the table, and that has required the work with all 39 cities. And we'll even roll up our sleeves further and continue to work and bring this home. And I think we've got a real good framework for how we work with our cities. We will find our disagreements. It does not mean that we're going to be in agreement 100%, but when you've got a good baseline and a good framework for understanding and for agreement, and you can talk to each other, we will continue to do that. And I think this transportation master plan will set the table for that. When we talk about our advisory boards and other civic groups, advisory boards alone, I think we're in the mid-30s with boards that we have that we staff. Some are statutorily required, some are just put in place by our Board of County Commissioners. We service them. We have any given department that works with them. We bring their recommendations forward and will continue to do so. They know they're valued, and we bring those at the direction of the board, potential policy issues to them. They render their thoughts, their opinions. We share those with the board. And that will always go on. Civic groups is even more interesting in that So many of them going back to how they consume and what part of information they want to consume. We have some very active civic groups in the county. We have others that might be a little more issue-centric. It's continuing to keep them informed, knowing when they want to hear more, knowing what topics they want to hear about. And I'd be committed to continuing that effort.
Sir, thank you. How do you plan to strengthen relationships with municipalities, advisory boards, and neighborhood organizations? The question now goes to Joseph Abruzzo. Sir, you have up to 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. First and foremost, communication is key. In approaching our local government with humility, consistency, and mutual respect is one of the most important things in launching pads. I've been out in the community for the past number of months since we all applied to be county administrator, and I've been speaking to city and village managers. There is a clear breakdown and lack of communication between county administration and the city governments. One thing that you will see me pose immediately is obviously setting up calls within the first 100 days, but ultimately quarterly meetings with our city and village managers. It is paramount and important. We have like-minded and cross-jurisdictional issues, infrastructure, emergency response. These are issues that we will always be engaging our local partners with. But one thing that I have heard, which is a little bit concerning, is that since there is a breakdown in communication, when the county performs work within municipalities, oftentimes they're not aware of it. They don't know. It's when our crews show up or our vendors show up that they found out. That's not acceptable to me as county administrator. We always have to communicate. We may not always agree, as you heard, and that is correct, but we have to always communicate and keep that line open. You know, in order for us to thrive, we have to be working with our local municipalities. We are about to embark on our transportation plan. That is going to very much so be in collaboration with our municipalities. They're going to want a say. They're going to want to work with county government, how our transportation plan works with their municipalities. So what I pledge to you is this. There will be a new day when it comes to the way we operate with city government. We are going to be engaging, we are going to be collaborative, and at the end of the day, you are going to see a much different interaction with our city and village managers, with advisory boards. My job, if I'm selected as county administrator, is going to be providing information to my bosses, the Board of County Commissioners, and whether it is our advisory boards here at the county or municipalities, community groups, I'm going to do the best I can in making sure that their recommendations are presented to the Board of County Commissioners so they can make the decision on how they take, adapt, and apply that information that our citizens and our community groups that put in so much volunteer time, that their voices are being heard. I will be cognizant within our departments of community relations that we're always transmitting that information to our county commissioners. Thank you.
Isami Ajala, your thoughts on how to strengthen the relationships with the municipalities, the advisory boards, the neighborhood organizations?
Certainly. My answer is that it will need to come from a place of self-reflection. What do I mean by that? I've been in the county for 6 years. Our prior administrator worked here 38 years. I think it's a hard ask to state that I could compare myself to her. She had a 38-year-long career where she got an opportunity to meet and work with every single municipality in this county. I have not had that opportunity. I have worked with many of them, often as a function of the work I do as Director of Facilities Development and Operations. And in plain English, that means that I often find myself in front of city councils and town managers when we have a project that we're going to implement within their jurisdiction. So, number one, recognizing that there's some ground to cover. It will be extending a hand and making sure that those relationships are established. From the second component of a realization that county cannot do what it's meant to do without the municipalities, and the municipalities cannot carry their work without county. So it is by obligation and design a required collaboration. And that collaboration needs to come from a point of understanding that sometimes we will agree, that sometimes we will not agree, and that we can work on the matters that we seem to have an agreement, and then pursue our corresponding paths in those areas where we have significantly differing opinions as to how things should work. And the underlying concept behind that is respect, knowing that there are some elected officials at the municipal level that have work to do, and staff members at that level that have work to do, and the same occurs at the county level with our elected officials and our staff members. Advisory boards, by definition, are just that, and we owe them the respect that comes with the volunteer hours and with the expertise. So my hope will be to work with those colleagues that put in the hours and the effort to advise the Board of County Commissioners, as the board ultimately is the one that holds the decision-making authority. And lastly, neighborhood groups. I hope to get an opportunity to visit each one of those. I have visited quite a few, again, as a function of projects. But we are working in your communities, and our efforts and our services should be a reflection and responsive to your needs.
Thank you very much. And again, for the benefit of you who may now just be joining our live stream coverage on pbc.gov or our live broadcast coverage on Channel 20, the question: how do you plan, Keith Clinkscales, to strengthen relationships with municipalities, advisory boards, and neighborhood organizations?
Let's recognize we have a problem. Let's recognize that we have a problem. We have silos. It's a problem that I'm looking forward to addressing, though. When I first got to the county, in my new role, I sat down and met with every single department and did a SWOT analysis. And I'll just cut to the chase. The number one weakness that the department head said to me is that we operate in silos. I said, what do you mean? There was some working together, but for the most part, there's excellence in every single department. But collaboratively, solving problems together just was not systemic and part of our culture. So I created cross-departmental teams to fix that. We're still working on it. But I say that to say, now I look across county, 39 municipalities, Palm Beach County, not talking to each other. What would I do? I was taught long time ago, R before I, relationships before solving issues. Relationship before issues. I want to build some relationships. People know Keith has been everywhere. You see me at ribbon cuttings, groundbreakings, summits, you name it. One of the problems I have is when we actually have a summit to address any major issue, housing, economic mobility, transportation, are we intentional about inviting the mayor and city managers of the other municipalities? We have to be intentional. We can't just assume they're just going to come. We got to say, no, we want you there. As a matter of fact, we carved out a session with all the city managers are going to address the issue of housing and homelessness. When I did the chamber, the Black Chamber on Monday and the Chamber on Tuesday, I asked Riviera Beach and West Palm, I said, you have housing issues? We got housing issues. You have transportation issues? We got transportation issues. You have public safety? We do. Let's work together. How come we don't? Their view is that they've tried. Our view is that we've tried. But I'm an integrator. I'm a motivator. I bring people together. It requires intentionality, reaching out, making foes friends. We can do it. We are all here to make Palm Beach County great. Thank you.
Yes, sir. We'll move on now to the next question. again picked at random. And we will begin with Keith Clinkscales. And the question, again, from a member of the audience, either here or from our audience online or submitted from somewhere in the public at large, how will you protect our drinking water, keeping it free from PFAS, pharmaceuticals, pesticides, and added chemicals so residents can safely consume water in its purest form? Again, we'll start with you, Keith Clinkscales.
Good question. Timely question. I took a tour of Palm Beach County employees, created the tour myself, to go to our reclamation center and be educated by our water utilities. Then I took them to Wakotahachie to understand how we actually reclaim water, how we take sewage or water sewage, water, and turn it into, and take out all the impurities. It starts with education. You'd be surprised. It's interesting. I created Feed Your Mind tours to do these types of tours. This tour was the largest attended tour. Over almost 35 employees from all departments came on this tour to go to the water reclamation because they want to know. So it starts with education. And we were surprised at how many of us just did not know what it takes to make clean water. We were educated. And now we have become ambassadors as a result of that Feed Your Mind tour. It starts with education. I think in any time we are actually trying to create change and move people in a direction, you have to change the attitude. And the way you change the attitude, you educate them. Once you educate them, they're no longer ignorant about what's in our water and how we act. The amount of people 24/7 working in water utilities to reclaim our water was absolutely amazing. So that's what I will start with. Educating the 7,000 employees, the 1.5 million residents, and then bringing them up to a level of sensitivity as this is what it takes. Every time you drink your cold water from the tap, this is what goes into taking out pH, fluoride, whatever you need, whatever we need to make that water reclaimed. It's because of the dedicated employees in water utilities.
Thank you. And now we will turn to Patrick Rudder. How will you protect our drinking water, as this questioner asked, so that it can be safely consumed in its purest form?
So a couple levels of answering that. First of all, you've got the Palm Beach County Water Utilities. You have the best water utility department in the country. And a lot of that starts with investing in the future before you need to make those changes. I think you can look around, certainly South Florida and probably a lot of other areas where you don't make those reinvestments early and you see catastrophic issues. That does not happen with us because we invest early and it needs to be done. To wit, one of the other points, if those of you might be following the PFAS, the pollutants in the water and the federal requirements, we've been on top of that, been in front of that issue for a number of years now and are prepared to meet those federal requirements because we have a water utilities company that does ensure that's safety levels and is in front of things. Now I'm going to take it up the next level when we're talking about water because I don't want to miss this chance to share. So much has been done over the past few years at the state level, the federal level, and then the local level, what our board has authorized on water supply and water quantity issues. From the massive reservoirs being built out in the Everglades to smaller reservoirs, which the state has funded, which the finances pass through us, to South Florida Water Management District building a reservoir just off the acreage, to money our board has invested in the Corbett area and the levee. How do we connect all those pieces so we help and are part of minimizing discharges, which we see going down our C-51 canal, going out to the intercoastal, so you don't see that gross water coming out, so you see cleaner water. So we help water supply moving to the Locks River. So we help provide a cleaner resource that might move to West Palm and their surface water supply, moving to grassy waters. What can we do? There is so much that is being done now. And my feeling, there are a few missing links out there and some points that need to be made that will require the help of some. And I look at some of our independent districts out west that can bring that home, which they can benefit as well. So how do we put those pieces together? And it starts by identifying what is there, what is funded, what is being built now. This isn't theoretical anymore. This is what's being done. Putting that together, and I hope that ensures that we provide a good, safe water supply for all.
Thank you. And Joseph Abruzzo, this questioner worried and brought up PFAS, pharmaceuticals, pesticides, and added chemicals. How will you protect our drinking water, they ask?
Thank you, Mr. Williams. First and foremost, we always have to stay on top of testing. We will see different types of chemicals and pollutants come into our region, and testing is one of the most important things. But I just wanted to say, to follow up Mr. Rudder, right here on my sheet, Patrick, I have capital improvements and regional communication, so that we're on board with others that may affect our drinking water supply. But I do want to let the viewers know at home, when I was your legislator, I got deeply involved in our water quality right here in Palm Beach County. I represented the Glades, and we all know about Flint, Michigan, and their horrible drinking lead pipes. I will tell you that the drinking, the water pipes in the Glades, you can make an argument, were worse. So much so that I had a cutout water utilities, thank you, Patrick, get me a piece of the pipe from the Glades, and I displayed it in my office. You would not, at times, feed your dog water of what these pipes were made of and what they looked like. Fact. I was able to secure the appropriation with the county matching it to redo the drinking water, and at the time asked Governor Scott to come do a tour right here in Palm Beach County to look at our drinking water supply. You brought up levees. I'm also the proud sponsor of the appropriation that helped us redo one of our main levees here in Palm Beach County. So my time as a legislator, I've done this, I've worked on the issues, but again, I don't want to circle too far off. Testing's important, capital improvement project, regional communication, working with ERM to make sure we are the best we can be, and I also concur, we do have the best department in the United States. Thank you.
Thank you. Simi Ajala, protection of drinking water. Your thoughts, your plan.
Certainly. I'm going to take a different approach. I'm going to state that this is a question about environmental stewardship. Because if you have the chemicals, if you have the PFAS, if you have the plastic in the water that is being treated to then become drinking water, you already have the problem. And at the plant level, we engineers can design anything that needs to be designed to treat that water. And I can assure you, as my colleagues have said, that this county has the best water utilities department. I have no doubts about it. So the capital improvements, the commitment from the Board of County Commissioners to invest in infrastructure and water plants that can handle the challenges that we are, I will argue, nationwide facing, is there. I think the deeper question is, how do we address the underlying situation? How do we ensure that we protect our natural resources so that the PFAS and the plastic and the chemicals do not make it there? Because at the end, we only have one source, right? As far as I know, we have been tasked with living in this beautiful earth. And I will argue then, the answer is a real commitment to the protection of our environmental resources, but furthermore, a real commitment to ensuring that development takes into account the environment, that we are implementing those practices that ensure that we can thrive as a community and benefit from advanced technologies, from more development, from better roads, but implementing that technology that will limit, reduce our impact on the environment. And it's never eliminate. Just because we exist here, we have an impact. The challenge, the question, the creative thinking is how we can modify our processes to lessen that impact so that the source is not negatively affected. And that goes back to the policies that the county implements. I think as government, we need to set the pace by our example, and we need to do what we preach, and we do that through the projects we implement, to the messages we take to the communities, and to the policies that the Board of County Commissioners establish.
Thank you. And now to our next question, picked at random. And again, all of these questions picked by you, members of the public. And Isini Ajala, this one will begin with you. The question comes to us: what will you do to prevent fraud and waste in county operations and ensure transparency in how public funds are used?
I stated before, the ability to measure what we do and how we do it is key, because it allows us to identify where resources are being spent and where modifications might be needed. So that transparency and those processes need to be in place to ensure that we can track. And I'm saying that because at the beginning I stated that there are some areas in county government that could certainly accept some improvements, and making sure we move from some manual processes to some that are more automated. With the ability to automate and with the ability to track comes something that is key. It's the ability to analyze. It's the ability to take that information and turn it into statistical analysis that allows you to show where improvements can be made or how your resources can be better aligned. So I will argue that hand in hand with this question and with how the system can be made more efficient so that there is no fraud comes the ability to implement systems and technologies that will further our ability to track how expenditures are being handled. Waste is part analysis, part an understanding of the work we do, and part an ability to analyze efficiencies that can be brought to the table in innovative thinking. Technologies have evolved, and how we do business in government needs to align precisely with newer technologies. And we depend and could depend on better technologies to be able to implement those changes.
Thank you very much. Keith Clinkscales, what will you do to prevent fraud and waste in county operations and ensure transparency in how public dollars are used?
Looking at operational excellence, you have fraud, waste, inconsistencies when you have a lack of process excellence, technology excellence, and people excellence. Looking at it from an operational excellence point of view, first thing we have to do is we have to look at the waste in our processes, streamline our processes, make them more simplistic and ease, do things one time, lack of rework, because when we start to cover up because of a long lead times or process inefficiencies, we actually start to implement waste and sometimes take shortcuts. The use of technology and AI and systems to enable our processes makes us better. But here's the last part. We need people excellence. We need to really, really focus on our people. See, we don't produce a product. We produce services. And who produces services? Our people. So if we actually train and develop and create a learning organization, accountability, transparency, if we work with our people and show that they matter, we reward them, we value them, they will go above and beyond to do the right thing. And we constantly have to train them. It's not just doing what you do, it's how you do it. With integrity, with accountability. Process excellence, technology excellence, people excellence. Eliminates waste, eliminates shortcuts, eliminates fraud. Then you have a high-performance organization.
Patrick Rudder, the question, and I should note it would tend to presuppose that there is fraud and waste. Do you agree with that contention? And what would you do or will do to prevent fraud and waste in county operations and ensure transparency and how public dollars are used?
So I'll start with making sure all of our employees are empowered and understand they have the ability to ask a question, and they have the ability to ask their supervisor if they are unsure about something. The person at the front line might not know the full story, but they should be empowered to ask, and I think they are, but they should be continually reinforced to know that they have that ability to ask and work their way up. A lot of that goes into or feeds into a quality control side of things. When we talk about waste, on the waste side of things, you want to know that what we're doing, whatever function we're performing, is the most efficient, is the right one. Might not be cheap, might cost more money, but it's the most efficient one that's out there. We've got a awards program for employees that's done every year, Golden Palms Award. And if you heard some of the awards that are done for departments every year, the innovation that a lot of them come up with is incredible. And the money they save by being innovative, by not needing to outsource something, by being able to do something in-house is incredible. And you could put $1 to that. You can put that metric to it and see how much they spend. I would tell you too, going back to the empowerment piece, we had a significant road project a couple years ago that involved shutting down a bridge for a period of time. It was about ready to be opened. Our inspectors found a lack of quality in a couple of the aspects. They did not hesitate to say, this is not right, it needs to be followed through on. It was painful. It was painful for us because we had a bridge that wasn't able to open, but we stood by it for the right reasons, because it wasn't safe, because the employees were empowered, they knew they were doing the right thing, they knew they were pushing back the right way and were asking the questions. And me, amongst many others, were happy to stand up and say, until it's done right, that we're not going to accept it. And I think that speaks to going back to the people who are on the front line, the people who are out in the field, the people who are issuing the task order, wherever it may be, they're the ones that need to know. They're going to be backed when they ask those questions.
Joseph Abruzzo, and thank you, sir. Joseph Abruzzo, what will you do to prevent fraud and waste in county operations and ensure transparency in how public dollars are used?
Thank you. It all starts with internal controls. General and a systematic risk assessment of your internal controls as well, enhanced whistleblower protection, holding vendors accountable, and we just heard from my fellow applicants, and I agree, AI and analytic tools. There's a great company, Tyler has ERP tools to help assess the analytics of what's occurring. I would like to briefly mention, I am currently the county internal auditor. The IG, we have a robust IG within our office that we look and assess our county contracts, how things are going, and really, when it comes to waste and transparency, the buck stops with me. We also have a county hotline for people to report potential issues that are occurring. I also would like to say something that many don't know. I serve in my current role, just to let you know how important this is, I have the only elected office where I am personally liable for anything that goes wrong. I manage billions of dollars. I'm the holder of the record. I have most of the public information within our office. So I will tell you that this is one of the most important issues to me. As I stated, it goes along the lines with waste, fraud, and abuse. So to circle back, we need those internal controls. Risk assessments need to occur. And really, at the end of the day, it's holding people accountable. Thank you.
We will move on to our next question, picked at random. And we will begin with you, Joseph Abruzzo. Should citizens, this citizen asked, be involved in the annual budget process? And if so, what should their role be?
It's an excellent question. First off, every citizen has a right to be involved in the budget process and convey to their county commissioner what they feel is important to them and what should be in the budget. We hold a number of workshops, and the county commission does, and public forums for the budget. It's one of the most, if not the most important item that comes for the duties of the Board of County Commissioner and ultimately the county administrator. But I will tell you, the public also, there are a lot of nonprofit groups and organizations that benefit from our great budget. And those organizations have a say. The county commission, from my experience of what I've seen, has always taken into account and listened to groups and organizations, and of course members of their district. But this is not really one to say for the county administrator, in the sense that the Board of County Commissioners ultimately will determine what that budget looks like. However, our staff is the ones that give the county commissioners the information, that start working on the budget from day one. It's important for the county administrator to also hear from the public as we put forth. And in that sense, you will rest assured that you will likely see me out in the public more than any other county administrator before, listening to our groups, listening to our residents, and conveying to the county commission also what I'm seeing. So just to reiterate, the public should always start with their elected official, their elected leader, and their county commissioner.
Thank you. And Isami Ajala, your take on that question. Should citizens be involved in the annual budget process? And if so, what do you see their role being?
So the answer is yes, they should. And furthermore, I hope they are. The current process provides an opportunity for citizens to become engaged during the workshop meetings, and if they cannot attend and provide public comment because they have conflicts or any other matters that keep them from doing so, they have the opportunity always of reaching out to their district commissioners. But furthermore, do I think they should have a role? I will argue yes, because it's their resources, right? We operate as a county on taxpayers' monies, which means that as a county, we should be able to reflect the priorities that the community members have. So aside from this being an answer, I'm going to call it an encouragement to have the community members convey their needs through the sources and paths that we have established through the budget process, so that to the extent that we have and the Board of County Commissioners can consider, because it's their role to approve that budget, funding for additional matters within that budget and initiatives, those can be brought to the table and be taken into consideration by the board. The county administrator has the responsibility, first and foremost, to put together a budget that takes care of the operational matters and the policy that has been set by the Board of County Commissioners, and the policy and new initiatives that will come. So it's a twofold effort, or a twofold task. One that is driven by what we currently have, and a portion of which that is driven by what it may be. And that's where citizens' participation, I will argue, is paramount to the success of the exercise.
Keith Clinkscales, your response, sir.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Community engagement is the heartbeat of what we do. We do everything that we do for 1.5 million residents. I would even take it a step further and actually put together listening sessions right before we go into budget season. Say, for instance, right now we have 7 strategic priorities. We have a listening session and say, okay, we're getting ready to recommend $1 billion for public safety, $203 billion for infrastructure, $20 million for unsheltered residents, $7.5 for housing development, $4.8 for environmental protection, $59 for economic development, and $16 for substance use and behavioral disorders. Those are 6 strategic priorities. Listening session, community. Does this meet your needs? Are we actually putting money where you see we should? Is there something we're missing? Do you have something that we should put under one of our 7 strategic priorities? Now, the strategic priorities may change. But still, if we had listening sessions right before we go into budget season, now we have another set of data from the residents that say, you know what? You guys are on track. We might not want to go down into detail in the weeds, but are we generally moving in the right direction regarding the budget? We're giving them a place to voice. That actually fixes the transparency issue. It fixes the erosion of trust issue. And it makes them believe that we are not just wasting their dollars. Yes, absolutely, they should be involved.
And the same question to you, Patrick Rutter.
So yes, I look at it at two different levels, and I'm going to start ground up. I would hope that our citizens are reaching out, not waiting till budget time to bring their ideas forward, but are doing it before. So if I live in a neighborhood and my road keeps flooding, I hope that call is coming in now, and we're not waiting till budget time. So our engineering folks could go out and see what's the reason for that. Is there some blockage there, or is there a failure there? Is it something bigger that would need to be included in the budget? So those items that might be bigger ticket, that do get included in the budget, I hope they're not waiting for that. They should bring those to us as early and often as possible. On to the actual participation piece, I'll call it the public side of it. One of the things that in my time at the county, as we've developed the budget, and you've got the best budget department in the country. I better not say one of, get in trouble for that. But we start our process at the department level in the winter time-ish, February, March, and open it up. I would like to get back to an era which we have done through the course of time, and touching on what Keith was probably hitting a little bit, where we talk to our board maybe January, February, before our departments are developing their pieces. You get a public meeting, a public retreat with the board, so they get to help develop their priorities for the year with us. The public has that opportunity to bring their ideas and their thoughts and their priorities. So when our departments are putting their budgets together after that, they've gotten that feedback already. They know where those challenges are. They know what their direction and the mission they're going to be sent off on are. Because we won't get back to the board with the budget hearing until later in the spring. So I think having that touch point early and having that direction early and giving the public an opportunity to weigh in early would be crucial, and it would make it a lot more efficient as well, because our departments will then know where their direction is, and they will bring the best one forward that meets those objectives.
And Patrick Rutter, stay right there, because we're coming to you for this next round of questions anonymously, and it will go to you first, Patrick Rutter. What can you do as county administrator, this person asked, to bring back Sunfest?
So we waited till halfway through to get me the softball? Is that what we're doing?
Picked at random.
Boy, bring back Sunfest. A great civic organization. I think, without showing my age too much, I was at one of the original ones, going back into the 80s. Miss it. I think what it is emblematic of, though, is so much of cultural and civic opportunities that are out there. It might have been the one that a lot of us draw to and think about, but I do believe that that was, might have been that bellwether on the forefront there of opportunities for entertainment, opportunities for just folks to get outside, to enjoy a city, enjoy a festival. There's so much that's available to us now. Certainly can't speak to the finances and the reasons behind where Sunfest went. I can remember an era where it was a different type of event, moved from an arts fest and a jazz fest to different functionality. But I do think it should always be thought of and remembered as kind of leading the charge and really putting us on the map for being such a great event.
Joseph Abruzzo?
When I think of Sunfest, I think of it not only as a concert, but a cultural and local iconic event. And I will tell you that if I was to advocate for bringing back Sunfest, and I understand how incredibly popular it is in our community, I would make it more of a platform for our local artists, small businesses, and youth organizations. My door will be wide open to suggestions. Like Patrick, it's hard to speak to the technicalities on the financing of why it's not here. Maybe some of my fellow applicants know, but something I would definitely like to dive into. But again, I think if we're able to bring it back, it needs to be a platform just as much for the international artists, but our local community and our local artists.
Ms. Ayala, your take.
An interesting question, to say the least, especially when the administration doesn't have the ability to control private finances, right? But I will say this. Setting aside what I think many of us have read on the paper as to what were the reasons behind that private decision to not continue with the festival, I will argue that administration and the county have the ability to make Palm Beach County the best place to be. And maybe it will not be SunFest coming back, but it might be that nest that allows you to have events that capture what SunFest represented at some point. Or it may actually bring back SunFest, right? And may actually lead that private decision to say, we have redone our finances, and now this might work if we take into account 1, 2, 3, 4. I think the administrator's role is to an extent, that facilitator role, to see where opportunities may lie, to see where I can bring and close that gap, to put a bridge between private investment and what the private sector does and how they conduct business, and then create a bridge to from what they need to what we can offer as it relates to infrastructure and built environment.
And finally, Keith Clinkscales. Sir.
SunFest could actually be the integrator signature event of all of Palm Beach County. Yes, I think we should bring it back, but I think we should use it as a way of celebrating all of Palm Beach County. Include the 39 municipalities, because it's not just Palm Beach County government. It's a celebration of Delray and Boynton and Riviera Beach and West Palm Beach and you name it. It could actually be the integrator that brings all of our communities together and say, you know what, SunFest is a celebration of Palm Beach County family. I think it would be one project that we could try to get all of the municipalities to work. Now, it could be challenging, but everyone is coming to Palm Beach County. It's a great place to live, work, and play. Why not have a yearly celebration or every other year celebration of everything that Palm Beach County has to offer? All the greatness in the tennis that happens in Delray, all the golf in North Palm Beach, Riviera Beach, West Palm Beach. Make it a SunFest, truly a celebration of all of Palm Beach. I think we can do it. And we definitely need, hey, private industry. They're all here. Make them part of the solution. Get them at the table. The BDB, the Economic Development Council. It is a celebration of all of Palm Beach. Use it as an integrator to bring the families together.
Thank you. Keith Clinkscales, you will be taking our next question, I should say, again submitted by a member of the public, and all of you will have a chance to answer. With Palm Beach County's written out, so forgive me, with Palm Beach County's unemployment at a low 3-4%, but with about 32,700 open jobs and 26,500 residents seeking work, and reported staff shortages in public services, what strategies is the county employing to recruit, retain, and fairly compensate its essential government workforce, including addressing workforce housing challenges to ensure continuity in public services?
Ooh, that's a lot.
Try reading the print.
Let me try to, yeah.
Keith Clinkscales.
Let me
Take
try
a
to
crack at
unpack that a little bit. I'll start with this one particular word that I want to say, which is intentionality. We have to be intentional about marketing Palm Beach County. Not only our government, but the jobs and what's available in Palm Beach County to those to our residents. I'll just stay a little bit with Palm Beach County. We have over 800, I think around somewhere between 700 to 800 open positions. We have about 70 positions that are over a year old, year to year. We have people out of work, but we have positions, tons of positions, as you said in the question. We need to match that. we need to figure a way to actually actively recruit, career fair, and channel those people who don't have high-paying jobs into these jobs. We have so much development and construction going on. There's jobs out there, but sometimes they just can't. I can't tell you how many people I refer to the Palm Beach County job site. They've never, ever thought about looking at our job site, and they're without work. I said, look at park and recreations. Look at water utilities. Look at planning, zoning, and building. Sometimes they just don't know. So we need to do county-wide career fairs, county-wide job fairs. The jobs are out there. We do need to make sure that everybody has a livable wage. We have to make sure that that happens. The problem is with low unemployment, there's more jobs than there are people. But we got to do better at matching them to those jobs. People can leave. People are choosing, try this job, they'll leave it and go to another one. Try this job, they don't like it, they go to another one. The other thing, we got to realize that there's a change in demographics. The ones entering the workplace are not like you and I back in the day. They will try something, and if it doesn't work, they will leave. If it doesn't allow for remote work, they don't want it. If they don't feel valued, they will move on. The reward structure, based on the different demographics of our ages, are different. And if we don't study that, I love the fact, and this is not just kudos to you, HR director, I love the fact that we have some new age thinking as a new HR director. Because we have to change our tactics on how we go about recruiting.
Your time is
Some of
up,
our
sir.
people.
But thank you for your thoughts. And Patrick Rudder, let's try and boil that question down. What strategies is the county employing to recruit, retain, and fairly compensate its government workforce, its essential workforce, including addressing workforce housing challenges?
So the first half on the employment piece goes back to, might be an answer that we touched on earlier. How are people consuming information? How are they consuming their news? Keith just touched on our job board. Might not think to look there. Is that where people are consuming the look? Is that where they're looking to go when they're seeking positions? I know about the vacancies, absolutely. And I can tell you that a great number of them are in areas and trades that are very much in demand and have been there for a long time. But that's not good enough. We still need to work more, work harder, and do a better job and continue to seek ways to fill them out. The positions are there for a reason. They're needed. It's challenging in ways. The real balance we have to find is working on the recruitment side with the pay side too. Because with a workforce of over 7,000 people, finding the right way, bringing people in at the right pay scale, being mindful of our budgets all the time as well. So it's a balancing act. You talked about housing. The question talked about housing, and I'll pivot there for a second because that does directly go. And I can tell you we've hired, I can think of one division where I know 3 more senior level staff folks were brought in one was from across the country, lasted 4 weeks, realized couldn't afford to live here, moved on somewhere else. We've had others that have come in for periods of time and they'll find themselves poached. You can't fix everything, but how do we proactively be preemptive and get in front of those points? Housing then. So we've got a program in place. One of many things our board has approved, the voters approved, our board directed us to pursue our housing bond that is out there right now, putting those monies into play. We've got an inclusionary program that I participated in writing a number of years ago, still working on changes per the board's direction now. We've created over 2,000, right around 2,000 units or so. There is no one solution that's going to work to fix housing. It's a whole bunch of other solutions, and we can weave back into our interaction with cities again. We need all our cities to participate in their own way as appropriate to work and help on the housing side. Housing does play a massive role in our hiring process. I've seen it way too many times. We don't get anywhere because people look at the cost.
Joseph Abruzzo, same question. What strategies to recruit, retain, and fairly compensate essential government workforce, including addressing workforce housing challenges?
Thank you, and I'm going to start with retention. You have to create a culture at your workplace that is completely inclusive for your employees, and I'm going to speak about the clerk's office because that's what I'm doing. We made it extremely employee-centric. The employees know that I have their back at the clerk's office. They will know in the county that I have their back as well. We implemented things, and a shout out to Shannon Nicole and our incredible HR team, career ladders, if you will. We have a department that when somebody starts with our clerk family, you will map out your career based on your vision, your dreams. So we help people grow. In government, we can never pay as high as the public sector. So we have to make sure that people are excited and thrilled to come to work. So when those higher job wages come from the private sector or maybe even other government sectors, they have to weigh their quality of life and the team that we've built. That is exactly what I'm going to bring to the county if I'm able to. I will tell you that it's, of course, targeting recruitment, job fairs, but also auditing internal control, finding what in the hiring process from start to finish, what is occurring to see if there's a lag time in the hiring process is very important. When it comes to workforce housing, of course, Mr. Rudders addressed the bond, and I couldn't agree. But I'm a big fan of TIFs with the sunset, Commissioner Flores. Very, very important, a great instrument. But I'm also going to be talking about high-density zoning as well when I have hopefully more time to address it. But it all boils back to the culture. That culture also not only keeps the retention, but when people go out to look, when they're looking at Google reviews and LinkedIn, and they see that people are excited to be at your organization, it just, you get a lot of people that apply eager to come to work for you, and that's the type of leadership I will bring.
Izumi Ayala, this critical issue, your thoughts?
So I have actually broken the question down into 4 different phases. And we start with recruitment. And I'm going to start, number 1, by doing a shameless plug and saying we're recruiting. Please go visit our webpage because we have open positions and quite a few of those. And in fact, I lead one of the departments that has significant open positions. I have a department of about 400 colleagues, and we're carrying, I'm going to say, about 60 open positions. And what is the challenge with recruiting for those positions? It's very hard to compete with the public sector. So I lead a department that deals with construction, that deals with capital development. And right now, given the level of development that is happening in our community, and that's a good thing, we're finding it hard to being able to bring those technical positions into county government. And what have we been doing and what can be done? Well, we have redoubled our efforts to find our colleagues early on at the trade schools, at the engineering schools, and try to share with them that we have a great place to work. But it's not a temporary work. You can actually make a career out of public service. So it's part of how we convey that message, and I need to give recognition to our Director of Human Resources because I know great things are coming into the HR department to ensure that we remain nimble in being able to identify those candidates and put an offer in front of them in a timely manner. That brings me to step number 2, compensation. When we make an offer, that offer needs to be competitive. But I am going to say something that probably steps outside the box in saying, we as government cannot compete with at every single position with the private sector because these are taxpayers' dollars, and there are some positions that are significantly better paid at the private sector. What do we do then? We do partnerships, we do contracts to fill in those positions and make sure we can continue to deliver services. When we make you an offer, if we make you a great offer, but you cannot find a place to live, that is a problem. And that's where the workforce housing component is key. And I feel very happy and content with the fact that our board as a policy has established that they will continue to push rather for in lieu fees for making sure that the workforce housing is built, and working with those developers to find how to better provide the actual units on the field. And lastly, you retain and you keep staff in place, and my colleagues have said it, based on culture. And I lead one of those departments that I can say proudly has a great culture. We handle a lot of workload, but we do it with a smile.
This is such a crucial topic. I'd like to interject a follow-up to allow all of you to answer this question. We've heard a bit of it from some of you. It's not just the county workforce. I hear all the time from people said, I cannot afford to live in Palm Beach County anymore. I hear from business people who say, I'm worried the general workforce across this county would be hollowed out and I won't have employees, which will hurt the economic engine. Go a little deeper, as some of you suggested you wanted to, and we'll begin with you, and all of you will have a chance to answer it. Ms. Ayala, dig a little deeper. When the county commission comes to you, what's the broader role you see for the county, and what are other options, perhaps that haven't been named yet, that you present to the commission if you believe there is such a role? For the general populace that said, we need help. We can no longer afford to live, work, and play in Palm Beach County. We'll begin with you.
And that ties back to economic development, and it's actually a conversation that took place during individual interviews today, right? We have a lot of development happening, but I will argue to an extent the county, through the permitting process in supporting the private business, needs to start working furthermore with private developers in assessing how we can further engage what they are doing to provide economic development that then allows for additional business to come to the county and for workforce housing and affordable housing to be developed as part of those larger developments that they have, but more as a self-sustaining organism where we have additional facilities that are brought to the area that are supplemented by housing and provide for a system that is able to operate and thrive. And that has been done, and many of the ideas are not new. One of my colleagues mentioned the ability to bring additional housing. We've recently had at the state level Live Local Act passed, right, with the idea that there could be areas where you maximize the potential for development. I do think as well that we have a county that has a significant portion of its land area built. And I think that makes it obligatory to start looking at those areas that can be rethought. And these are things that are being done elsewhere in the nation, where you see, for example, all malls being converted into different types of development. I mentioned at some point before that my prior workplace was Montgomery County, Maryland, and just a few days ago I was reading a very interesting story as to how they took one of their legacy shopping centers and they're actively turning them into a residential type of facility. So I think we have made it to that point where ensuring we can nurture that type of idea, providing for additional regulatory solutions, providing for those additional incentives that may bring private development to partner with the county, achieve what they are trying to achieve, and at the same time help us to take care of the community needs, might be the solution to a problem that has not a single answer.
Keith Clinkscales, if when the commission comes, says we need you to put even more options on our table when it comes to affordability, the crisis that is
Sure.
countywide, what do you say?
We need partnerships. We need really, really good partnerships between the public sector and the private sector. We need multifaceted developers that are not just coming in to just develop, but seeing it as a responsibility to look at housing as well as jobs. If we can actually embrace the developers and educate them on when they come to develop, we're growing as a county. But when we grow, in order to give them the workers that they need, we need their support, we need their input, and we need them to help us give people jobs. We need a private sector and a public sector summit where we sit down and we agree to jointly address the issue of workforce housing. We jointly agree to address folks who do not have jobs, high-paying jobs, and we need to understand that it's a collaborative effort. It will take a village. It's a community. If you want to come here and develop, it's what I mentioned earlier when we talk about inclusive growth. When you come in and develop in Palm Beach County, we should all benefit. There should be jobs created, and there should be housing where they can actually stay. What's the sense of development here and someone coming to work a gig job or a job, but they cannot find a place to rent, or they cannot find housing? They have to work 2 or 3 jobs. The developers have to be educated that that's part of their responsibility. It's a partnership. It can be a win-win. They only benefit from having people who can actually have a place to live and afford their rent.
Patrick Rutter.
So I'm the planner in the group, so something like this is near and dear to my heart. And then I've done our inclusionary workforce housing program, mentioned earlier, since inception. First thing first, there's no one solution. It's going to require a variety of solutions. We've been working this for a while, have not reached a solution. And you go back to the recession, and I remember hearing from a lot of voices back then as we were coming out of it. Prices had reduced, a lot of availability. Your affordability problem was solved. Well, 2, 3, 4 years after that, we're right back where we were. Now look where we are now. It's a challenge of success. It's a challenge of having a viable, enviable area to live, but there's not one solution, one way that's going to fix it. My planner head, part of it is, where are the jobs? Are we creating jobs in places where people don't need to drive 20, 30, 40 miles? Are we creating those opportunities? That pivots us back to working with our cities, or our cities stepping forward and making some of those tough decisions as well, offering those job opportunities in different types of developments that create that, so they're not driving long distances. One thing that's always been in my head, probably every place I've worked in development world, challenging the developer to bring us something that's not allowed right now, challenging the developer to bring us an idea that will make money and will make it work. Because let's not kid ourselves, no one's doing a project unless it pencils out and they can make money. And I will tell you, as we do our workforce housing program, we run model pro formas. We look at what delivers appropriate profitability. So we have an idea of what is in our code and delivers those profitable lines. But I would love nothing more than to hear from development community, I need to see X, Y, or Z. I need to pivot this way. And I would put that challenge out as much as we need to pivot and we need to be ready to make modifications. Those who want to build, and they should be allowed to make a fair profit, but it should be done. Tell us what's not working now. Tell us specifically, bring it to us. We've got something to work with to bring to our board then by way of changes that can make that happen.
Joseph Abruzzo.
Thank you for the question. First, I have to give a shout out to my union brothers and sisters. They have been on the forefront for decades, far before any of us were involved in the process, sounding the alarm on affordable housing, not only in Palm Beach County, but throughout the state and throughout the country. That said, my union brothers and sisters also at time work with groups like ABC, who came on board noticing for their member it was so important as well, which is why I filed almost every year I was in the legislature the proclamation that affordable housing was going to be a major issue in our state, and a special shout out to the Florida Alliance for Retired Americans. Mr. Williams and to the board, I did want to discuss one idea that I would love to propose or discuss with you to see if it's something you would propose for a pilot project, and that is residential density zones. I've studied this a little bit. They are pre-selected areas in the county where high-density housing, like townhomes, apartment, condos, would be automatically allowed without going through a lengthy political or public battle every time someone wants to build more units. They are not limited to workforce housing, they're about increasing the total supply of housing, which by basic supply and demands, each puts pressure across the board to have a lower option or a lower price on these homes. What I've noticed in affordable housing, specifically in Palm Beach County, especially from 2020, the county commission has done so much. Sometimes when developers, non-apartment complexes are put that are supposed to be affordable, because of supply and demand and how, quite frankly, hot our county is for real estate, they do not become affordable for long. The resale values and everything, if they are priced moderately, they spike up almost overnight. So we're in a really a conundrum, and you've heard from my fellow applicants that there's no magic bullet. It's a complex issue. That's why I would like to propose this plan for a pilot project. If we pick an area and do this residential density zone, let's see how it shoots up from a supply and demand. Just an idea I had, but again, I'm not the person that sets policy. Would like to have some ideas that I could speak to my fellow county commissioners about. I am not an 8th commissioner. I am not a legislator anymore or an elected official, so it is very important that a lot of these ideas will come privately, but we are speaking publicly today.
We have time for at least one, perhaps a couple of more questions. Here's one from the public, and we'll begin with you, Mr. Abruzzo.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. And thank you all. This questioner says, how would you assess the performance and responsiveness of the various central service departments, and what specific steps would you take within your first year to identify inefficiencies, modernize operations, and ensure these departments effectively support county staff who deliver direct services to residents? Joseph Abruzzo.
Well, in response to our first responders, EMS, we have, and we've talked about best in the country, no doubt, we have the best Palm Beach County Fire Rescue or Palm Beach County Sheriff's Department. We have the best in the nation. When it comes to natural disasters, you need to look no further than Palm Beach County and how we operate. I will tell you that keeping the status quo in that regard is extremely essential. From our Palm Beach County for PBSO, for our Sheriff's Department, and local law enforcement across the board. We do not look like San Francisco, Chicago, and other places. We can go into Walgreens and Publix and not have everything locked up behind a counter. And I stress that because we spend a lot of money, really the majority of our budget goes to our first responders, and thank God. Because part of the reason, we were just talking about affordable housing, the conundrum is, part of the reason we have such a desired area is because how safe we are and how, when emergencies occur, how our frontline workers respond to the needs of the citizens. So if the question, and if I got it right, Michael, when it comes to changing behavior of those departments, of our first responders specifically, it is status quo and listening to them to back them up on what they need to continue the mission of how they're incredibly serving Palm Beach County.
Assemi Ajala, and I'll repeat it, it's a lengthy question, but once again, for you and for our audiences at home and here, how would you assess the performance and responsiveness of the various central service departments, and what specific steps would you take within your first year to identify inefficiencies, modernize operations, and ensure these departments effectively support county staff who deliver direct services to residents?
And that is an internal services provider question, and that thrills me because that's part of what I do on a day-to-day basis. Palm Beach County is a trendsetter in many areas, and we set industry standards in many, many fields. I'm going to share with you one industry standard that I don't think we actively have right now and that I actually miss because I saw it in operation in my prior workplace, and something that is called county stat in some places, in other places it's called city stat, right? But it's basically taking that information that is produced internally and subjecting it to very strict analytical and determinations as to where we have patterns that need to be addressed. And it's what I'm going to call a hard conversation, but it's also a truthful conversation where our internal departments are reporting on what they provide in order to be able to support the rest of the county operations. And those internal customers that we have are reporting back saying, this is working, this is not. Now, being able to track performance in such a way, and I'm talking very directly and something very technical, allows you to reassess resources and reassign them as they and where they are needed. So that is something that I would love to have an opportunity to work in here while being the county administrator for this county, because I think it will open the door to very specific areas where efficiencies are warranted. There are a few departments in this county that are internal service providers: facilities development and operations, information services, human resources, procurement, and all of them support the rest of the county operation. Our breadth is significant, and the ability that front-facing departments have, like community services, youth services, parks and rec, depends on the ability that we internal service providers have to be able to support them. So a key area for evolution and an area where we can benefit from the path that others have taken.
Thank you. And Keith Clinkscales.
So I'm going to look at this from an operational excellence point of view. The service that you're talking about, facilities, ISS, public affairs, OF&B, purchasing, and HR. When I came on board as the Director of Strategic Planning and Performance Management, I did a SWOT analysis. I looked at the strengths, the weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the county. As I told you, the number one weakness is we operate in silos. The second one was the service that they were receiving from central services, HR, ISS, public affairs, and at that time, purchasing. So I'm going to be candid with you. My supply chain background tells me that we have internal and external customers. Central services, in some cases, do not treat the rest of the departments as they are a customer, if that makes sense. As a customer, when I need recruitment, when I need people on staff, when I have a vacancy, I need the lead time from HR to be a certain amount of lead time. When I put out an RFP, I need a certain level of service, some purchasing. Now, I'm going to say this, and some of this probably might not sit too well, but I want to say that we're already good. We're very good. We have some of the best workers and best departments in Palm Beach County. We are an awesome organization. But good is the enemy of great, and great is the enemy of extraordinary. In order to get better, and the question is specifically asking central services, how do they actually support the departments that provide service to the residents? We need to treat the departments like they're a customer. Lead time, cost, and service. Thank you.
Thank you. And Patrick Rudder.
So a couple things. One, to always think about, go back to answer on a couple others as well. Bottom up, what are our employers saying? We keep talking, we rightly are talking about efficiencies. What are our people doing? Now this one, in our central services departments, we're talking about feedback that I experienced that, working in a division, then being a department head, working with other departments, boy, I wish they could do this, I wish they could do this. You might not know the full story. You bring an idea forward, it might not necessarily be implementable, but you should never be afraid to bring that idea forward, to bring that to your supervisor, to bring it to another department, a point like that. I want to identify one, when we talk about efficiencies, Our risk management department this year, for instance, you look at our budget, we had a big savings that occurred because they worked so hard with our insurance carriers, and our insurance rates were down, and we had a positive thrown to the budget this year. That takes a lot of work. Any given year when we're going through health insurance, negotiating the best deal, getting the most out of it for our employees, but bringing it forward at the best cost forward. So a lot of it does get lost down the food chain to a degree, but all those dollars add up and all those pieces add up. To me, the big thing is the desire and willingness to look both ways. It's not just me as a user, man, I wish you'd do this, I wish you'd do something a little bit different. It's the departments themselves. You know what, that's a good point. Let me think about it. I can't get there because of a reason, or no, that's a really good reason. It's a different perspective. We all get lost in our own worlds of things that we know that we do well, and I think bringing those forward and having it be a two-way street by way of wanting to listen and hear is the best way we're going to get to better resolution.
We are coming to our final question now, given the time for the program, but we do have time for one more question submitted by the public, and we thank you so much for those of you joining us on our broadcast live on Channel 20 and on pbc.gov, and of course our audience with us here at the Convention Center, the Palm Beach County Convention Center. We will begin here with you, Mr. Rudder, for this final question. Patrick Rudder, please explain in your own understanding of the role of county administrator as it relates to Palm Beach County's table of organization and applicable Florida statutes governing county administrator powers and duties.
So I think an administrator, we start with, there are measures of statutory responsibility that exist. We have reporting requirements. You certainly have your public record requirements, but we have quarterly reporting, I believe it's quarterly reporting requirements per statute, number of other points. Any given county administrator, it obviously is a significant position in the interaction and the impact you have on people. Working with the board, you're that bridge between the board, the policy direction that they want to go, to being that bridge and that link to our department heads, who then continue to communicate that message down the line. We play our role, but it's the balance of the 7,000 employees are doing the work, the hard work to make these things happen. And I think the administrator role is being the best you can to be that bridge and that link, to best communicate to our board what they want to, what they need to hear, what they need to know about policy recommendations, how we can do it, timing of when we can implement them, things of that sort, then down to our departments, our divisions, and our staffers to bring it home. Because that's what we're here for, and that is our function.
Thank you, sir. Joseph Abruzzo, as you outline for our audience your understanding of the role of county administrator.
Thank you. Thank you. A public administrator is both a steward and a strategist. At its core, it's about ensuring that public policy, the policy set forth by the Board of County Commissioners, is enacted and delivered. It's both the protector and steward of the inner workings of our government. The role ultimately is engineering results needed by the direction of the Board of County Commissioner. And I agree with Mr. Rudder, it is clearly defined in our county charter and in statute, but at the end of the day, it's managing the process, the will of the Board of the County Commissioners to delivering the results for our community, and it is simple as that.
Thank you, sir. Isame Ayala.
Thank you. So we actually have the recipe of what the county administrator is supposed to do. And I was asked actually last week, what is it that a county administrator does? And I provided a simple answer saying, the county administrator is the CEO of this business, is the chief executive officer. You have two documents that govern what a county administrator should do. The first one is the county charter that says that one county administrator is appointed by the board and serves at the pleasure of the board. And then you go to the county code, and it's an interesting read, to say the least. You have a very lengthy list of duties and responsibilities that will tell you what that county administrator is supposed to do. And I am going to very quickly walk you through them. It is the chief administrative officer is responsible for the proper administration of the county affairs. It is bound by law and the statutory provisions that apply. It has responsibility for personnel, which means it has the authority to hire, to suspend, and to fire. It needs to report to the Board of County Commissioners on any directive that the board has stated and any policy that they have created. It has and is bound to be responsible to the board, but is required to provide updates to individual board members. It has the responsibility of drafting and preparing a budget that the Board of County Commissioners will consider. It will establish the schedules and procedures to be followed by all county departments. It is responsible and supervises the use of county property to ensure that it's managed correctly. It recommends a classification plan to the board for approval. It develops and maintains centralized budgeting, personnel, and personal procedures. It organizes the work that the county departments perform. It negotiates leases, it contracts and other agreements. So it's basically a contracting officer. It sees that all terms are abided to. It attends the meetings of the boards. It makes sure that the accounts, records, and operations of every department are on point. It performs any other duty that the board may want him or her to perform, and it supervises county staff and the department heads. So as you can tell, a very hefty responsibility.
Keith Clinkscales.
When I first came out, we started with, I said, I'm asking the Board of County Commissioners not to hire a resume, but to hire an attitude, hire a passion, hire an innovative leader. There's an academic description of what a county administrator is supposed to do. We get that. But let me break it down and speak from my heart. The county administrator is partly management and leadership. We manage a process. Leaders, we develop leaders. We develop leaders all throughout Palm Beach County. Culture will eat strategy for breakfast, and it starts from the top. If that county administrator does not create a high-performance culture, it will be toxic, and we will not get high performance. So number one, that leader sets the culture. Due diligence. It is our role to make sure those 7 commissioners have every piece of data that they need, every benchmarking piece of data they need, every data analytical data they need to make the great decision. It's their policy. We execute. Once I give those 7 commissioners everything they need to make a decision, then I implement it. How do I implement it? Through empowering, motivating, inspiring all of those 7,000 workers, creating transparency, critical thinking, and for them the ability to think out of the box and give me new ideas. When we show up as a team before the 7 county commissioners and they have to push it off to a whole nother month or another month or another month because we didn't give them all the data or we didn't talk to the right folks, that's time, and time is money. That's number 2. Community engagement is number 3, and my final. That this leader needs to be out in the community, talking to folks, rubbing elbows, understanding their needs, their concerns, what we do right and what we do wrong. It's almost like facilitator, inspirer, motivator, coach, you name it, the county administrator needs to do that. But number 1, we need to give the 7 commissioners what they need to make great decisions.
Thank you, and that will conclude our question and answer session. I'd like to thank each and every one of our candidates for taking time to be part of this, for your participation, and now's the time when you can applaud, and loudly so, for their participation. And you at home and live streaming as well. And we thank the Palm Beach County Board of Commissioners for making this part of the selection process for the next county administrator. And to those of you who may be interested, the Board of County Commissioners, and I know many of you are, will be conducting interviews tomorrow, June 17th, in a public meeting that will start at 9:30 a.m. It'll be in the Governmental Center Chambers, 301 North Olive Avenue, West Palm Beach. And it will be broadcast live on Channel 20 and live streamed, of course, on pbc.gov. Again, to our candidates, to all of you who took time out of your day and evenings to listen in and to be part of the questions and answers, we thank all of you and wish all of you a good evening.